Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. All right, welcome to well, this isn't quite the grand opening yet, but welcome to our tour of what will soon be the 5th bridge housing facility that we've opened in Council District 2 in the last 18 months. It's been a phenomenal series of successes as we've opened bridge housing in Van Nuys, in North Hollywood, through the mayor's A Bridge Home program, and now the 3rd tiny cabin village that we've opened within my district. And I couldn't be prouder of everybody who has made this possible. And I'm very pleased to say the headline here is that when we open this facility, we will have opened enough bridge housing capacity to house every single person who was living unsheltered on the streets at the time of the last homelessness count. So that is 100% success with the opening of this facility. And I just could not be prouder of the work that we've done. And as you see from this picture, this is a win-win, because it certainly is going to be a win for every single person who sleeps in a bed in one of these cabins, who is able to lock their door and turn on the air conditioning and have a place to store their things and to be safe for a night. It's certainly going to be a win for every single one of those people who, tonight may be sleeping under a bridge, vulnerable to attack, exposed to the elements. It will certainly be a win for them when they get to come in here and call this, a place that they can call home, that they can lock the door from the inside and feel safe. That will certainly be a win for them. But as you see here, what it looked like before we started, this is also a tremendous win for the surrounding community as well, because this little sliver of land, and by the way, the same is very much true of our previous 2 tiny home villages as well. This little sliver of land that was technically Rec and Park land was obviously not being used for recreation nor for parks, as you can see it. It was being used essentially as a dumping ground for people who want to illegally dump things. It was used as you can see there are some homeless encampments in here. It was used for tagging. It was used for all sorts of purposes other than recreation. Well, now, thanks to the cooperation of the people who are standing behind me, coming together across governmental lines, across departmental lines, we've able to build this fantastic facility which is going to change lives and change the neighborhood as well. So I just couldn't be prouder of the work that we've done here. And I want to recognize some of the people who have been responsible for this happening. And first, as I mentioned, this was technically Rec and Park's jurisdiction land, but it was within the umbrella of Rec and Parks thanks to a long-term lease from CalTrans, because as you can see, there's a freeway right here. And so this and of all things, it's ITA. It's Information Technology Agency. Use the remote, for God's sake. Okay, thank you. So this little sliver of land, which was essentially, left abandoned when this construction of the freeway was completed, was leased to Rec and Parks, but as you can see, not utilized. But we still had to go through all of these intergovernmental hoops to make sure that we had CalTrans approval, to make sure that we had Rec and Parks Commission's approval, and so many other things. And so first, I want to recognize the District 7 Director for CalTrans, Tony Tavares, who I'm going to ask up to come and speak in a moment. But I want to tell you how transformative Tony's arrival has been in District 7. First of all, for those of you who don't know, a CalTrans district is massive. District 7 includes about a quarter of the population of California. It involves billions and billions of dollars of construction going on all the time. It includes some of the busiest freeways, not just in America, but in the world here in District 7. And when Tony Tavares came on board to take over this district about a year ago, he really brought a sense of commitment to helping to address homelessness from his previous work in the Bay Area that we had not seen here before in CalTrans. And so because of his leadership, and also I want to also recognize, of course, the leadership of our State Assembly member, Adrien Nazarian, who worked closely with CalTrans to make sure that we were able to get this project done. It was because of that transformative leadership that we were able to change this into this. And so I'm proud to recognize and thank Tony Tavares. And I'll be thanking the other folks from the city family here as well in a moment. But first, as I mentioned, this is now our 5th bridge housing facility in the district. Every single one of those, starting with the 2 bridge home facilities and each of the 3 tiny home cabins that we've built, has been with the incredible engagement, leadership, support, partnership, and commitment of our mayor. And I cannot say enough about the work that Mayor Garcetti has done to address homelessness at a time unprecedented in this city. It's been unprecedented not only in the causes of homelessness that are all coming together at once, the economic causes, the issues surrounding social issues that are not being addressed by our federal government, our state, and our county government sufficiently. Mayor Garcetti has been put in the position of having to address this situation even while he's addressing the impacts of a global pandemic and the economic impacts that comes from that. It's been a leadership task that has fallen on few, if any, mayors in the history of this city. And throughout all that, he's done it with positivity, with vision, with a commitment to making things better, even in the face of sometimes withering criticism from people throughout this city who, have their own interests and their own agendas. But Mayor Garcetti has been steadfast in supporting the work that we've done here, not just in Council District 2, but throughout the San Fernando Valley and throughout the city of Los Angeles. So I couldn't be more pleased to welcome him and that he's sharing in this moment with us. Please allow me to bring up to the microphone our great mayor, Eric Garcetti.
Well, thank you, Council Member. Thank you, Paul. Long after you are a council member and I'm mayor, we will be Paul and Eric, and we will be friends, as we have been before, and a friendship that is born not just in the affinity we have for one another, but in the work I've seen come out of you and your team in those same trying times. And as mayor, I try to channel this city. I try to channel its hopes, try to tell its stories. I've tried for 20 years as a local public servant to just wake up every single day and look at who's not here, who we're missing, what voice we don't hear, whose face we don't see. Maybe because they're sleeping in a tent. Maybe it's because they were born in the wrong zip code. Maybe it's because we've forgotten to look. But today we see you. And I couldn't be prouder to do that alongside you, council member, and your team here in this district. I set a bold vision with the city council to put housing in every district, to put shelter in every district, to put transitional housing in every single district. And some people say, oh, there's council members who don't want to do this. Now we will have HHH in every district. We've had permanent supportive housing. We see everybody stepping up, at least some. But we see some extraordinary stars, and you're right there among, if not the brightest of them, Mr. Krekorian, who has stepped up here. Think about these tiny home villages. This is the 7th in the city, and 3 of them are in a single district. So I did the math. If you divide it by 1/15, 7, you are about 6 times above your quota already, just here in this district and setting the example, because we cannot do too much. And I just came from a press conference that had left me so optimistic and so excited. We're together with our state leaders, our council president in North Hills. We were celebrating the launch of Home Key 2.0, because the question always is, okay, they're here. This is a great first step. What's the next one? Well, the next step is permanent housing. What causes homelessness? Everything. Simplified, trauma meets high rent. But that trauma is the manifestation of veterans coming home from war, youth emancipating from childcare, women who've survived sexual and domestic violence, people who've lost a job, lost a partner, struggled with mental health, addiction. Those conspire together with high rents to put people on the streets and in cars and on couches, but we know what solves that. A bed, housing, a city family unified here together. And so we were launching both the celebration of Home Key 1.0, which together with the governor and the legislature, we were able to take 15 hotels and motels and apartment buildings and make them permanent housing in a matter of months, not years or decades. And we did 5 more on our own dime with a great budget share. And together, 20 of those buildings in this past year became permanent housing. Well, we hope to maybe even double that in this next round. 740 homes so far, and maybe more than 1,000 coming. So we are gaining ground on this fight to end homelessness. I know if you walk the streets of LA or drive them, you might not feel that day to day, but for those of us who it's our business to see tomorrow, we can see and feel that tomorrow. It's arriving now. The Whitsett West Tiny Homes Village, creating 77 new homes, 150 beds for some of our most vulnerable Angelenos. It is an incredible coming together of this council, district, and office, and of 2 angels in this city of angels, Ken and Lori Kraft, and the Hope of the Valley team, who I just am never going to get sick of showing up and seeing and celebrating with as well. And Lori, you should be up here too. Ford Construction, Lair Architects, 2 incredible partners for bringing these homes off the drafting page and into our community. Tony Tavares, who the council member and I served together on our Metro board, but his entire team, Elizabeth LaCrue, the project manager here, Jeff Newman, the entire city staff, our city engineer who's here, and Deborah and the entire team who made this happen, who's answered that call for a bridge home, who's answered the call for tiny home villages. Our great Los Angeles Police Department, and thank you, Captain Mohammed, for being here, and for North Hollywood, and all the men and women who in the toughest year ever suit up and say, it is my joy and privilege to serve the people of Los Angeles. Let's give our police officers a round of applause and thank them for what they do. Our Rec and Parks Department, led by an amazing leader who is coming, up for his annual review, and he's going to get some high marks because this year Mike has led an incredible team that answered every single call we put before them. Thank you, Mike Scholl. And for Heidi Marston and everybody at LASA, who's tasked with that hard work of the in-betweenism, as I call it. So, look, a tiny home means a place to rest your head. A tiny home means a door you can lock. A tiny home means somebody who will talk to you about the challenges that you face. A tiny home means you can begin to set your eye on a permanent plan and a permanent place for your next chapter. We're saying yes to strengthening our social safety net. Voters are saying yes to ending homelessness. And contrary to what you might read in audits and other things, HHH, which you voted for, is coming in 2 years early, 1,000 units more and 15,000 less per unit than what we promised. That is delivering on time, actually early, more and cheaper than we promised. We advocated in Sacramento for HEAP and then HAP, flexible dollars for local cities to spend. And thanks to the legislature and the governor, that has increased. And this year there's 12 billion, yes, you heard that right, 12 billion of the state surplus going into homelessness and 10 billion into affordable housing. So I hope you share my optimism, because I'm sick of being pessimistic. I'm sick of people saying we can't do it. I'm sick of this year that we have all lost too much, suffered way too much, felt too much trauma. But I say thank you to everybody for being a part of this dream. And I promise not as long, but a couple paragraphs en español también, para nuestros amigos de la prensa español. Bienvenidos al Whitsett West Tiny Homes Village, un proyecto de vivienda de 77 nuevos hogares y 150 camas para algunas de las personas más vulnerables en nuestra ciudad. Y gracias al concejal Krekorian y su equipo en este distrito número 2 por su visión, porque hay 3 de en su distrito. En total solamente hay 7 en la ciudad, pero 3 en uno de los 15 distritos. Un aplauso por él. I'm saying, clap for him in Spanish, if you know how to clap in Spanish. Vivir en una de nuestras casitas significa que tendrán una puerta que se puede cerrar para poder dormir con tranquilidad. Es un hogar donde mantenerse fresco en el calor y seco bajo la lluvia. También significa que tendrán acceso a asesoramiento de caso y consejería. Y el gran equipo de Hope of the Valley ayudará a cada residente a crear un plan de acción personalizado para poder obtener viviendas permanentes. Lugares como Whitsett West son solo una pieza de una rompecabezas muy complicado. Hemos hecho inversiones históricas este año para poder terminar con la crisis de vivienda, vertiendo casi $1,000 millones, un récord en nuestro presupuesto. Sabemos que lugares como este solucionan la falta de vivienda y también sabemos que esto toma tiempo, pero Whitsett West ayudará a nuestros vecinos hoy. Así que para todos aquí, gracias por su visión y su arduo trabajo. Thank you very much, and back to you, Councilmember. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And Mayor, thank you for also mentioning the next steps, because I think we all recognize that whenever we provide bridge housing, it is a bridge. It's a bridge that's intended to move people into permanent housing, into a life that where housing is sustainable for that person. This is not a permanent solution. This is the bridge to take someone from under a bridge and to get them into longer term, more sustainable, more permanent housing. And I'm very pleased, that the mayor has been such a crusader on all parts of that spectrum as well. And here in our district, we're under construction right now on one of those hotels that the city purchased to create permanent housing, and there's 2 more that are in the works right now as well. So thank you, Mayor. And I also want to recognize the mayor for this point too. He mentioned state funding and federal funding and how critically important that is to the city's ability to respond to this crisis, a crisis that goes well beyond the boundaries of our city and comes from well beyond the boundaries of our city. Mayor Garcetti has been instrumental in ensuring that this city has been able to benefit from that funding because of his leadership in driving our lobbying efforts in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. And without that effort, frankly, I don't know where we would be right now. So, Mayor, thank you for your leadership in our nation's capital and in our state capital as well. Speaking of our state capital, of course, I mentioned earlier Tony Tavares and the great partnership that we've had with CalTrans, the great partnership that we've had with our state representatives, most notably Assemblymember Audrey Nazarian, in making today happen. And so I want to invite up to the podium next our District 7 Director for CalTrans, Tony Tavares.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Krekorian. Thank you, Mayor Garcetti, for the very nice and kind words. I will say, as the District Director for CalTrans here in District 7, Los Angeles, Ventura counties, I'm only as good as the team around me. And I do want to recognize my team, some of my team members that are here today. Mr. Ed Francis, our right-of-way deputy, Ms. Elizabeth LaCrue, the project manager, and Mr. Jeffrey Newman, our chief of staff. Thank you so much for your assistance. I will say CalTrans is extremely proud and to be able to facilitate the safe and affordable solution to assist persons experiencing homelessness. These new tiny homes are a clean and safe space to help those who need assistance in finding their way back into community. With assistance from local social service agencies, these people will have the fundamental support of a roof over their heads and a pathway to a better life. For the last 2 years, under the Governor's Executive Order N23-20, CalTrans has had the ability to lease some of our property, as you see here, to cities and counties for the purpose of emergency shelters and tiny home villages. We now have 2 leases with the City of Los Angeles, with 2 more underway, and I hope to identify additional sites to grow that number exponentially. Again, thank you to Mayor Garcetti, thank you to Councilmember Krekorian, LASA, all of the partners who have participated here to bring this tiny home village to fruition, as well as the community. And I do must recognize the community for their support, the businesses, the people who live and work in this area, for addressing this critical need. CalTrans is extremely proud to be part of this solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you for your continuing leadership that we're now benefiting from, as San Francisco benefited from in your previous posting. And we're so delighted to have this new era of cooperation with CalTrans around this very critical issue. And thank you, Tony, also for mentioning the community support that we've had for this project, as we have had eventually for all of the projects that we've put forward. Sometimes there's some initial resistance. Sometimes there's legitimate questions and concerns, but by working with the community, we've been able to garner support for every single one of the projects that we've opened. And I'm so pleased to thank NoHo West Neighborhood Council for their support of this project and their continuing partnership. It really sends a strong signal, I think, to the rest of the city when we're able to create these win-win opportunities, working with the community, not in spite of the community. And so I'm really pleased to thank NoHo West Neighborhood Council. And right behind this beautiful fence, also, you probably noticed as you drove in, this lot of vehicles. And this is a business that makes Hollywood dreams possible. This is a business that provides vehicles for television shows and films and so forth. And for many, many years, they had to endure this. And that was not something that was good for business. And it was really sort of the opposite of what we think of when we think of the Hollywood dream. So I just want to thank them for all of their cooperation and working with us to make sure that we could come up with a solution that would be beneficial for the business, for its employees, for the neighborhood, and also, of course, for our longer-term solutions to homelessness. So it really has been that kind of a positive partnership. Now, next, I want to recognize a man, the chief engineer of the city, somebody whose fingerprints are literally on every bit of public infrastructure that you see when you drive around this town, and who has been instrumental in making all of our projects possible. And as the mayor said, able to bring these projects in on time and on budget. We couldn't have made any of this possible without the incredible commitment and leadership of the leader of the Bureau of Engineering and the city's chief engineer, Gary Lee Moore. Gary?
Thank you so much, Councilman Krekorian. And I guess to describe this project, I'd use 2 words: partnerships and tenacity. I want to talk about tenacity first, and that's Councilman Krekorian. Councilman Krekorian, we can't build on the site. Oh, yes, we can. Councilman, we can't build on the site. We can't get approvals. Oh, yes, we can. Councilman, we can't build on the site. We can't get the approvals. Guess what, Councilman? You got the approvals. Thank you, Councilman Krekorian. Incredible tenacity. A man just passionate about helping and solving the homeless crisis that we have here in Los Angeles. Partnerships with CalTrans and Tony, partnerships with Mike Scholl in the Department of Recreation and Parks, partnerships with the Bureau of Contract Administration and John Reamer, partnerships with our contractor, 4DC, and Arash, the president of Ford. I'm also joined here this morning by a member of our Board of Public Works, who oversees 6,000 employees in Public Works, our Commissioner, Jessica Caloza. I'm so glad you could join us. You know, a little bit about this site, and it's so important now that we, you know, our partner during construction, one of them is Hope of the Valley, who we've done the other facilities with, and it's so great to have them here. And this is the step one, but the hard step really begins with Ken and his team as they occupy this site and bring homes for 150 new people. You know, here, I'll tell you just a little bit about it. Is there's 2 hygiene mobile trailers, one on each side, and actually the site is 1.2 acres. We also have 2 8x40 modular shipping containers so we can speed up construction. And in those containers, you have the case managers, you have on-site laundry facilities. And when we started construction, you couldn't stand here and talk. And today you can. And that's because of these attenuation sound blankets that run along the length of the freeway. So when people are living here, they won't go out crazy. They'll be able to focus on themselves and focus on getting into permanent supportive housing. There's shade and umbrellas provided throughout the site. The site is securely fenced, and there's storage bins for people to put their goods. Also, people that move in here that have pets are welcome. There's a pet area here where they can use. So it's just, we want it to be inviting. And of course, color. Color, this is your home now. We want you to feel like it being your home. And we're just so proud. And I just want to thank especially the people in the Bureau of Engineering, the team that worked on this day in and day out. And they're all around here. And so I'm going to miss a few names, but I appreciate that the mayor acknowledged our Chief Deputy City Engineer, Deborah Weintraub, Deputy City Engineer Jose Fuentes, our Senior Architect Maria Cuenas, Eric Villanueva, and then when it comes to project management, Marcelino, construction, Marriott, and Edwin. It was incredible. And the last person I want to thank, and that's from 4DC. She doesn't get a lot of acknowledgments when we come out here, but that's their construction manager. And that's Layla Amiri. And where is she? There she is. Raise your hand. I want everybody to see you. Delivered this project in 3 months. Thank you so much, Councilman Krekorian, and to all the new residents. It's our honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary, and thank you for the great work that you've done, and thank you also for recognizing Commissioner Caloza, and I want to thank you and the entire board for your support throughout this as well. As I mentioned, this is Rec and Parks property, and anytime we do anything relating to Rec and Parks property, it requires an approval of the Rec and Parks Board of Commissioners. And Dr. Sylvia Patsouras, who is the chair of the board, and the entire board have been steadfast supporters of the efforts that we've been making here. And that might not have happened in previous years. So I really do want to recognize the Board of Commissioners of Recreation and Parks. And of course, the incredible leader of this great department. And I'm glad to hear that the mayor has good thoughts about his annual review, because I certainly have good thoughts about that as well. He has run this park system at times of unbelievable challenge. You know, budget cuts, personnel loss, increased demand, the COVID pandemic and the shutdowns that came from that. Through all of this, Mike Schall has kept this Department of Recreation and Parks not only running, but thriving and being such an invaluable resource for all of the people of Los Angeles, the great focus on ensuring equity around our parks. And so I'm very pleased to welcome and to thank the great General Manager of the Department of Recreation and Parks, Mike Schall. Mike.
Well, thank you, Councilmember, and wish me luck tomorrow at 1 o'clock is my review with the mayor. So I could use well wishes from everybody. But anyway, just a pleasure to be here. And first I want to start by just congratulating the council member, our mayor, Gary Moore, Public Works Department, Bureau of Engineering, Hope of the Valley, our leaders from CalTrans that are here today. It truly does take a village to get all these projects done. And congratulations to all of Gary's staff that delivered this project along with the contractor. This was easy for Rec and Parks. It's not always easy, but this site has been, it was full of blight. It was very difficult to try to figure out, we have had this lease with CalTrans for many, many years, decades in fact, but it was really not suitable at the time, for using as a park purpose. So that made it easy to find, the solution, working with Councilmember Krekorian to find a solution for this to be a tiny home site. It was easy for us to approve this site. It was easy for us to support the efforts of the city of Los Angeles. We should not, as a Parks Department, be turning our blind eye to the problems that face the entire city. We need to be part of the solution. It should not be just, there's solutions that we can find if we work hard together that makes sense. Well, this one made sense. It makes good sense. And this project has not only made good sense for the opportunities that it's creating for our unhoused residents, but it has opened up the door for additional green space. And you ask why? Well, there's additional space that's related to this lease that we've never developed as a result of the issues that we have here. But because a solution has come to this area, we are now going to be able to develop additional parkland directly to my right that will be now accessible by the public, be accessible for the residents living here. So there's lots of positive things that have come out of this. We're just grateful to be part of it, grateful to be part of an incredible city and state team. And just, again, the passion that Councilmember Krekorian has for not just this project, I'll just speak for the park system. I would not want to work with anybody else other than him, as close as we have for the many years that we've worked together. And I'm just blessed to call the councilman just one of the biggest park supporters and advocates that we could have in the city of LA, along with our mayor. So thank you very much, and just proud to be part of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you for your kind words. Whenever I hear, any kind words like that directed towards me, I need to be quick to say that I have the easiest part of this process. The hardest part is done on a daily basis by my team of professional public servants that serve this district day in and day out. And they made this happen with their passion and their commitment as well. And so I want to take a moment to thank my district director, Lorraine Diaz, my field deputy Jeff Camp, the whole comms team who's over here, Tom, Hugh, and Paola, who have the job of not only making today happen, but communicating with the public around this as well. And of course, representing everybody on my staff and who has so deeply been personally engaged in this and all of our other projects, my chief of staff, Tavares as well. So thank you all. And to everybody else in City Hall in the field who works on this. Now, look, it's great for us in the city family and CalTrans to come together and celebrate a project completed. That's important. But what's way more important than all of that is what this project will do. And that really is what today is all about. What this project will allow to happen on this site. The lives that will be changed every time somebody opens up one of these doors and puts their head down on a pillow and is able, as I mentioned before, to lock the door behind them and feel safe, sometimes for the first time in months, if not years. And what happens on this site, make no mistake, will transform lives. We know that because we've seen it. We've seen it in every one of our other facilities, both of our bridge home facilities, both of our other cabin communities, through our Homeless Services Navigation Center as well. And every one of those facilities has been ably led and operated by the unbelievable people of Hope of the Valley, the people who really do give all of us hope every single day. And I want to thank them for their commitment for their compassion, for their empathy, for their effectiveness. And I know that this project is going to be a tremendous success as well going forward, because it's going to be led and operated by Hope of the Valley. And I'm so pleased to recognize and to thank with immense gratitude my friend and my partner in all of these projects, Ken Kraft of Hope of the Valley. Ken?
Thank you, Councilman Krekorian, and I'll try to keep this short, but I also want to just thank our staff, Lori, who's not only my wife, but she's a Chief Programs Officer, and Rowan and Damon and our entire team, and Steve, thank you. But I'm gonna ask right now that Cindy and John would make their way up here, because I could stand here and tell you how great the tiny homes are, and the bridge housing, and the job center, and you know, you're hearing me tell the story, but it's different when you hear it from somebody that's actually lived it. And so I've asked Cindy and John to come up here. Why? Because I've asked them to come on up here because they lived in tiny homes. The Chandler site was the very first site to be opened, and they were one of the very first residents. They're not a couple, all right? Even though they might make a good couple. Anyhow, they're not a couple, but they had their own units at Chandler. But here's the great news. We know that this is not their permanent housing, and the goal was to get them into permanent housing. I got great news for you. Neither one of them live in Chandler anymore. They are permanently housed. And Cindy, I know, you know, you live in a one-bedroom, and you said you're so thrilled to be there, and we are so happy for you. And John, I think your story amazes me. Okay, all that you've been through, and you even said the amount of just sometimes mistrust, a lot of broken promises. People said they were going to do something for you. It didn't happen. And then there you were, day in, day out, for a few months, living in one of these tiny homes. And you said to me, it was a rest. It was a place to catch my breath, that I didn't have to worry about the essentials of life, just survival. And then you were offered permanent housing at the perfect time. And then I understand how the story goes. As you were unpacking the gift bag that you had to your permanent housing, a card fell out to the job center, which also was built right here from Councilman Paul Krekorian. He built the job center, which we operate. And then you went to the job center and you sat across the desk from a lovely lady who began to interview you. I don't know if you know this, but she lived in one of our family shelters. And so she came from a family shelter. She's employed at Hope of the Valley. You went to the job center. And now I want you to know this man right here is gainfully employed. Okay, he is making $19 an hour as a forklift driver. It's going to go to 21. And he is on his way. So come on over for 1 second, John. I want you just to say a word or two. Go ahead, Caro, about what it means to you to have lived in a tiny home and now to be in permanent housing.
I feel really grateful. I mean, the first day of moving in, I couldn't believe it. The tiny homes facility offered me an opportunity to just like get my head together. And the beautiful part of it was that I didn't have to get up and go to roll call. I didn't have to, you know, of course there's rules in anything you do, but it allowed me the space and the time to do it at my pace. And then I had a whole crew of support. Housing stabilizer, case manager, just mental health. It allowed me to be able to deal with the mental health. That's a big one. Just because you're here doesn't mean that it's the beginning. It's not the end. You know, it gives you time to really think. And I'm just really grateful. And I'm going to get long-winded.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. And Councilman, thank you. It is your vision, and as has been said, the tenacity. We are so grateful to be partners with you, and let's continue to help people get back on their feet and back into the game of life. You guys, thank you so much, very much.
All right. I think we've covered everybody. So, again, thank you all very much. Everybody who's standing here, everybody who's participated in this, everybody whose lives will be changed because of the services that Hope of the Valley will be offering here. Can't thank you enough. I'm looking forward to when we actually are able to open this up on September 21st. 21st, right? We're holding to that. September 21st. We'll be open for business here. We'll have our first residents here, and lives will be changed starting from then. So thank you all very much for coming. Is there any questions for any of us? All right. Well, thank you again. Appreciate everybody being here. Thanks so much.